You ever notice how certain nights never really leave you? You can change cities, jobs, friends, even entire versions of yourself, but one baseline, just one, and suddenly you're back there. Not watching it. Not remembering it from a distance, back inside it. That's what the 1970s were like. Not a trend, not a costume party theme, a pulse. A vibration that moved through rooms and through people and somehow stayed there long after the lights came on. People like to reduce it now. They say disco and they picture a mirror ball spinning slowly over a wooden floor, someone pointing at the sky in a white suit. But that's the postcard version. The real thing was warmer, louder, messier, and far more human. The clubs that mattered didn't look like much from the outside. No glowing billboards in the beginning, no velvet ropes when it started. Sometimes it was just a staircase going down into a basement that smelled like damp brick and old paint. Sometimes a plain metal door with music leaking through it, just enough for you to know something was happening inside. I remember standing outside one of those doors in New York, early 70s, pretending I wasn't nervous. You could hear the kick drum through the wall, steady, patient, like a heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. It wasn't rushing you, it was inviting you. Inside, the air felt different, thick, alive. There was heat from bodies moving, perfume and cigarette smoke mixing into something you couldn't quite name. And what struck me wasn't the lights or the glitter, it was the way people looked at each other. There was no sizing up, no judgment. On that floor, you weren't your job. You weren't your background. You weren't your reputation. You were just someone moving to the same rhythm as everyone else. And that rhythm leveled everything. Disco didn't begin as spectacle. It began as sanctuary. In underground clubs, especially in places like Paradise Garage, something quietly revolutionary was happening. People who didn't feel safe out there found a space in here. The DJ wasn't just playing songs. He was reading the room like it was a living thing. He knew when to hold back, when to stretch a groove for just a little longer, when to drop that record that would send the entire room into orbit. The transition from one track to another was seamless. You didn't feel the shift, you just felt yourself carried forward. There was something about that four on the floor beat. It didn't demand perfection, it didn't demand skill, it just demanded that you feel it. I watched people who would never call themselves dancers lose themselves completely. A small shoulder movement would turn into a spin. A cautious step would turn into full abandon. And nobody was watching to critique. They were too busy living it. That's what people miss when they joke about disco now. It wasn't choreography, it was release. When Studio 54 exploded into the mainstream, it felt like the underground had suddenly been thrust into bright flashing light. That place was theater. Limousines lining the street. Photographers snapping. People dressed like living fireworks. And yet, under all that excess, the same pulse remained. I remember walking inside and looking up at the moon sculpture hanging over the dance floor, glitter falling from the ceiling, confetti sticking to your skin hours later. But what stayed with me wasn't the celebrities, it was the mix. Someone who worked a 9-to-5 office job dancing next to someone whose face you'd seen on magazine covers. For a few hours, hierarchy dissolved. Disco changed the DJ forever. Before that era, the DJ was background noise. After disco, the DJ was the architect of the night. The person who shaped emotion, who decided when tension would build and when it would explode into joy. A great DJ could make strangers feel like a community. That blueprint is still everywhere today. Every massive festival headliner, every superstar DJ commanding thousands of people, that elevation began in those 70s rooms. The fashion wasn't vanity, it was transformation. After a week of blending in, Saturday night meant stepping into something brighter. Silk shirts, sequins, platform shoes. Colors too bold for daylight. Dressing up wasn't about showing off. It was about stepping into a fuller version of yourself. You walked differently in platform shoes. You held your shoulders back in a satin shirt. Clothes became armor, became declaration. Of course, nothing that bright lasts unchanged forever. As disco grew, it became commercial. Record labels chased it. Radio stations looped it endlessly, and backlash came. Disco sucks. Disco Demolition Night in 1979 felt like more than a stunt. It felt like a cultural rejection. But here's the truth, no demolition could change. You can't destroy a feeling. You can mock a genre, you can burn records, but you can't erase what happened in those rooms. The rhythm didn't die, it moved. It became house in Chicago. It seeped into early hip-hop. It traveled into European club scenes. It laid the foundation for modern electronic dance music. Listen closely to today's biggest tracks and you'll hear it. That bass line structure, that layered string section, that steady kick driving everything forward. Producers still borrow from Chic. DJs still sample Gloria Gaynor. Because that formula, tension, release, groove is timeless. But more than the structure, it's the feeling people chase. That moment when the lights dim, the beat drops, and everyone in the room moves as one. Sometimes I think what we're really nostalgic for isn't just the music. It's the simplicity. No phones held high, no recording for later. You had to live it fully because there was no replay. If you wanted the memory, you burned it into yourself. The 70s gave us that kind of presence, that kind of immersion. The dance floor wasn't just entertainment, it was temporary utopia. A place where you could be loud, different, expressive, and no one would ask you to shrink. And maybe that's why the era still echoes. Retro nights sell out, disco samples go viral, fashion cycles back, because underneath it all, people still want that same thing, connection. They want to feel free for a few hours. They want to move without self-consciousness. They want to belong somewhere without explanation. When a classic disco track comes on now, watch the room. There's always that 1 second, that spark of recognition. Shoulders loosen, smiles appear. People who swore they weren't going to dance step forward anyway. That's not coincidence. That's legacy. You're not just hearing an old song. You're stepping into a current that's been flowing for 50 years. The 1970s didn't just give us disco, they gave us permission. Permission to shine, permission to move, permission to take up space. And even though the clubs changed, the fashion evolved, the music morphed into new forms, that permission is still there, pulsing under every beat. So the next time you're at a party and that unmistakable groove kicks in, pause for just a second. Feel the floor beneath you. Feel the bass in your chest. Somewhere in that rhythm is a basement club in New York. A glittering night at Studio 54. A DJ stretching a record just long enough to make a room erupt. Somewhere in that rhythm is the echo of a decade that refused to move quietly. And maybe that's why it never really left. Because it wasn't just sound. It was freedom. And freedom, once you've felt it under a spinning mirror bowl, is impossible to forget.